Good evening, good evening, good evening. How are we doing today? I know we are going to have a special guest tonight, so just bear with us a few moments while we get everything set up and ready. And if everything works out, we will be on very quickly with everybody. So as you come in, definitely let us know where you're coming in from. Hello, Winks. How we doing? Yeah. So we have a special guest tonight. So we will be live very quickly. Just waiting for them to show up. Doing all right. How's how's Cuomo doing over there in New York and Gavin Newsom out in California? Good evening. I know I'm not drinking a healthy thing, and yeah, I agree with you on that one. Yeah, I don't know why people aren't getting notifications. I definitely double check and make sure that everything you're getting notified. Don't claim them in California. I don't blame you. So, as our special guest is getting ready to go, and I'm gonna pull up my email real quick and make sure that. Okay, I'm getting that opened up and ready to roll. Okay, we got everything up and running and ready to rock. So I will definitely bring her in. Guys, give it up for Sam the Barber. I know everybody sees her in the stream.
Hey,
How you doing tonight, Sam?
pretty good. Pretty good.
You made it. You made it through your work week, huh?
I did. Yeah. That was it's always fun. It's always a
Oh,
lot of
absolutely. Yeah, we're. I mean, right now we're only 3 minutes in, so I guess we're still building.
fun. Okay.
I think people were expecting you to be a guy because of the barber.
Because Sam the Barber is a childhood nickname and it has to do with everybody's got siblings. I was lucky enough to have one that cut my hair like right there when I was a kid and blamed blamed me for it, and my mom cut off all of my hair. And this was back in the 70s when it was like that bowl mullet thing was really in. So all of our pictures from that year are like my sisters with their bowl mullets and me with this like a haircut pretty much like yours. And my uncles, because they're really nice guys and they like to um, drive
Pick.
points like that, they named me Sam the Barber. And so I wore that nickname around for about 5 years. Mhm.
Wow, that's. I mean, I never expected that one.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm sure a lot of people have seen you in the chats. You kind of interject here and there, and like, guys, excuse the kids running around, but people people have seen you in there chatting about we're chatting about the health and different
Mhm.
things, and you're piping up, and I was like, you know what, it's good. It'd be better to bring somebody on screen and actually have them just share a little bit about themselves. I know you don't want to say too much about where you work or whatever, but you just, if you could share a little bit, no pressure, but I'll leave it up to you.
Okay. So I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for about 15 years now. I work in a large hospital in the Mid-South area. I work prior to working where I work now, which is it's a dedicated COVID unit. I worked neurology, so it was like neurosurgery, strokes, seizures. That was kind of our focus there. It's a neuro step down. Right now, I do COVID step down. And in the past, I've done things like cardiac step down. I've done orthopedics and just kind of general med surge potluck.
Oh, sounds like a little bit of fun. Not really, but
It can be. It has its moments, and nursing is one of those fields where it changes so much, and it has changed so much in the last 15 years. But there's always a sense of joy that you can get from it if you're doing it right, and if you're looking at it right. I'm not gonna lie, it's been hard to find that sense of joy the last, since all of this started, but you just have to look, you have to find it. Because honestly, on the COVID unit, you're the only interaction that your patients have. They're completely isolated. They can't even spend time with each other. They're in a room for weeks at a time. They can't leave. Their families can't visit them. They can't do any of that. And my patients are all conscious because they're not ventilated. If they're ventilated, they're across the hall in the ICU section of our floor. My patients are all conscious, so they know how crappy their lives are right now, and it's hard on them.
And I think even from a mental health standpoint, I wouldn't even know what. I mean, you see people that they come off intubation and they still have to be isolated for what is it? I know some of them, a lot of the really bad cases, they still have to be isolated for up to what, a week?
Generally after discharge, they're in isolation at home for like 10 days. Okay. But that's they come off of the ventilator. But that's all that means is they're conscious now and they're off of the ventilator. It doesn't mean that they're healthy and well and ready to go home. Especially if they've been on the ventilator for a while, they might be, another 4 weeks.
Yeah. There's reports that I was actually doing a little bit of research this morning. So I was doing a little bit of looking into it, but there are reports that are saying one thing, like that the second somebody gets vented, there's hospitals. I know there's a few major hospitals that were venting people, even if they weren't necessary, if it wasn't necessary at the time. So they're venting for longer periods of time than medically necessary, and that actually led to a lot of the heart, not only heart issues but lung issues and so on and so forth. So I mean, as a nurse, I'm sure you've seen a lot of that, because I mean, for me being out for 10 plus years, it's like trying to envision myself in that situation, and I'm just like completely blown away from with everything. I'm just so with the vents, is there a certain protocol that the docs are supposed to be using, or is it just one of those things that they're venting any case that could be potentially bad.
No. There is. I don't work the ventilator side. So once they actually need the ventilator, they are no longer in my care, and I don't have as much. I'm not as familiar with their plans of care at that point, but I can tell you that there was a push in some areas of the country to ventilate early, earlier on in COVID treatment, because they were feeling like early ventilation would improve the patient outcomes. I don't know that we actually saw that actualize. I know that at my facility, we do everything we can to not put them on the ventilator, not intubate, not put them on the ventilator, because once someone is on the ventilator, the numbers show us that it is infrequent that they are able to come off of the ventilator. And so, like for my patients, they'll be on the high flow Vapotherm, which is a nasal cannula at 40 liters of humidified oxygen, and a non-rebreather over top of that at 15 liter. I'm just wide open. We're blasting as much oxygen as we can at them with a new low on oxygen, like SAP parameters. So in the past, where it was always like, well, you want your patient at 95 to 100%, and below 95, we're getting a little iffy. If you hit 92 and 90, you better be calling the doctor. Right now, if we can keep them at 88% on that nasal cannula with the mask over top of it, it's considered successful therapy for those two items. But that's kind of, after that, we'll put a desperate hope and put them on the BiPAP if they fail that therapy. But that's our last non-mechanical option before we start exploring ventilation. And so we do everything we can, everything to keep them off those ventilators, because we know that outcomes just aren't what we want them to be.
I'm hearing outcomes of anywhere from, a couple of studies I've seen is for vent patients coming off of vent, only something like 65% survive, which is,
I would say that's an optimistic.
Yeah, and I know that's pushing the optimism to almost to the extreme, because I mean, even like accident victims, from dealing with what I did back in the hospital that I worked in, accident victims, we'd bring them in. We, of course, right away we'd vent them if their lungs were collapsed, whatever, and we would try to keep them on until we stabilized them. And so we'd only have a vent in. Sometimes that vent would be in for less than 24 hours. But anything after that, we were told if we did that, there's almost zero chance they're coming off that vent. So, I mean, I can't imagine what you guys go through. I mean, even for yourselves, the mental health.
It's different. It's hard. It's not easy. And I will say that here lately, it's been better. In July, we have a roundabout, so I don't want to give too many specifics, but we're going to call it going on 50 beds on our floor. Every bed was full. Every single bed. And our unit was, my unit's, it's dedicated to COVID. I mean, there's a little airlock thing. You can't get past there without being in your PPE and everything. So that whole floor was full. And at that point, it was full with just ICU patients, so ventilator patients and step-down patients. Our med-surg patients who came in, they are COVID positive, but they're not really symptomatic. They were in isolation on another floor just because we didn't have the space, the capacity to treat them on our floor. and COVID wasn't their issue. They're on room air. They just happened to be COVID positive. We had 2 other floors that were taking those extra patients. So we had our 50-ish plus at any given time, I don't know, maybe 5 on one floor, 5 on another floor, and then patients waiting in the ER. Now our patient load has condensed so much that I have had mostly the lower acuity patients, and all the patients are contained to our floor, and we are at less than half capacity. So that's very good. Our patient load has decreased. We're having fewer and fewer patients come in critical COVID situations. Having said that, it's still difficult. They're still, the ones who are on ventilators for a very long time. And the ones who aren't on ventilators are still stuck in the hospital for a very long time. Because they have to be 10 days out from a positive COVID test and asymptomatic just to get off of our floor. And so if they even make it off of our floors into some other floor in the hospital, they've already been there 10 days. And they've been in isolation, and it's very difficult for them. So part of our job as healthcare workers is not just to, give them meds and make sure they're breathing and, take their lunch into them. And that's, nobody comes to our floor. We take their meals to them. We draw their labs. We do like other things. X-ray will come to our floor, but other than that, we are the everything for them. And so you really have to try to make time to spend with them because they need human interaction. They need that.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people need that human interaction. I don't believe there's a single one of us that could survive without it.
No. We are group creatures. We've evolved in civilizations. We are meant to be with other people, and the isolation is incredibly what eats away at the soul just a little bit for these people. So you have to be mindful of that, and you have to address that need with everything else. And if you don't do that, you're not taking good care. You're not taking good care of your patients. You are their resource. You need to do this. So
we do have
here's the thing. Where I work, because have they received? Yes. Yes, they have. In December, they rolled out the first series of the vaccine, and they provided it first for highly exposed personnel. So that would be your ER personnel, your COVID unit personnel, anyone who comes into frequent contact through work with our COVID positive patients. So that's doctors, that's nurses, that's respiratory therapists, certainly respiratory therapists. That's our environmental services employees, our kitchen staff, which sounds strange, but they do deliver the trays. Anyone who works in any part of the hospital where you are going to have frequent exposure to COVID, they provided that for all of us. And I did get the vaccine. This was in December, and I think I told you I kind of woke up kind of midway through January. Well, if you get it at the end of December, you get your second shot beginning of January. So I've had both. And it was after that I kind of found some things that made me realize that I don't think it's quite what I was under the impression that it was. I am not saying that it's a bad thing, because I can't say that. I am not saying that. And I'm offering no professional opinions whatsoever. I want to make that perfectly clear to everyone. This is not professional advice.
We we want that. We want people to understand too, and I'll jump in there. We want people to understand that there is a difference between a doctor offering opinion or legal or medical advice. There's a difference between that and a nurse. We can offer up our opinions all we want, but it is not the advice that you would get from a doctor.
Mhm.
Unless your doctor and anything that's said, if your doctor hasn't okayed it or you need to talk to your doctor, definitely reach out and talk to your doctor before starting any supplements or anything that could interact with different medications that you're on. Just want to throw that disclaimer out there. That way people know that this is purely talking and
Mhm.
just trying to make
We're
sure that people are
yes,
clear.
we're chatting. We're
So-
chatting. Yes. So, and
Sure.
as a nurse, I am not licensed to make any diagnoses. I am not going to diagnose because that is not within my scope of practice, and I do not practice outside of my scope. That needs to be said as well.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, there are some that are legally licensed to diagnose, and
Mhm.
unless you
That's
have that license, and guys, I used to be licensed, but I am no longer. So that's why I don't claim to. I say I'm a former nurse because I no longer carry that license. So
Yes.
there, King Me said, Sam, what's your opinion on the vaccine? Your 74-year-old mom is looking at taking the vaccine, and your 19-year-old daughter got her first shot this week.
My opinion for myself is that having looked at my opinion is that I don't know. I don't know what this vaccine is about. I don't know what it's going to do. I know that we are being told that it's going to be a very good thing. Here's the thing. We're also being told that it is a vaccine. And from what I can tell, when I looked at the CDC website, they define a vaccine. And then I looked at Pfizer, and it seems that the description of this vaccine on Pfizer's website is not quite the same as the definition of a vaccine on the CDC website. So that gives me reason for concern, and because I can't find good clarity between those two websites, between the website that is supposed to be telling us what to do and giving us good information and the website that is manufacturing this drug, it makes me wonder what is exactly in this vaccine as far as what is it going to do, because we're not getting good information. We're not getting complete information. So my opinion on the vaccine is they need to be releasing a whole lot more information and clarifying a whole lot better before I feel that their obligation to the American public to thoroughly inform so that the American public can make informed decisions and informed consent, they have not yet honored that. That's what I think of the vaccine. That's a whole lot of, that's a very long way of saying I don't think they've earned my trust. And I wish I had realized that before I had taken the vaccine, because I don't know that I would have. I was under the impression that it was a vaccine, sort of like the flu vaccine, which honestly I'm not really fond of, but it is a requirement for my work, so I take it. And I figured, well, if the flu vaccine is okay, I haven't gotten the flu yet, even though I tell my parents not to get the vaccine. Then I'm guessing the vaccine for COVID must be along the same lines, and therefore whatever they have to offer, clearly I'm strong enough or healthy enough to not have it affect me. But it's not the same thing. So I don't know.
Yeah, And King Me also asked, I know you responded on your part as to whether or not you've had the vaccine. As far as me, guys, I can't get vaccines. I had a flu. I've had flu shots before. Every time I've gotten a flu shot, I end up in the hospital. So I no longer get that. I've had a whole bunch of other shots that I've reacted to. So anymore, I just say no vaccines, and my kids don't have that kind of reaction. My wife, she told me she's not going to get it because, of course, with the unknowns of possible sterilization that they have on the white sheet itself. I was my wife was like, no, I want to have kids. Well, she ends up with 3 of them. So coming. So yeah, it's kind of, yeah. I see the look on your face.
Really?
Yeah. So that's kind of the news that I've been kind of holding back from everybody. But yeah,
Congratulations. Boy, she does the thing thoroughly, doesn't she?
yeah. I mean, if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it well once, right?
Yeah.
For
Oh,
Ye, who's running around upstairs, so I apologize about the noise, but yeah, we'll have 3 more added very shortly.
I'm one of 7. It's
So
going to be
yeah,
a packed house.
somebody asked why am I okay? So won't I get the why won't I get the vaccine? Well, guys, there's something called informed consent, and when you are going to get a vaccine, there's supposed to be an insert on any of the vaccines or any of the vaccines. Have they had the insert?
I didn't see one.
There isn't one. They come in little boxes with the vials, and they're in their freezer. You pull it out, and there's no insert. The insert is considered an informed consent contract. It is legally required on all vaccines, experimental or otherwise,
Mm.
and it's required under federal law. So, anytime somebody comes to me, can you show me the insert for the vaccine? If they don't give me the insert and don't allow me to read it, and they just want to jab me in the arm, it's done, because that is a contract, and if you take that shot, you are legally obligated to allow them, or to basically indemnify them of any legal issues down the road if somebody was to get sick and pass away. So I mean, there's a lot of information that is out there, and always, guys, definitely take a. I just tell people, look at the insert, read through it, know what you're taking, because if you don't, are you are blindly going into something without the knowledge.
Yes.
So, um, you wondered why I had adverse effects. No doctor has been able to determine that, because I eat eggs, which is one of the things that they're made. They use egg yolks in the process, but I eat them. I don't have problems with them, but for some reason, there's something else in those that reacts. So let's go back. I know I've seen at least 1 or 2 more comments.
I can't see the comments. Am I supposed to see the comments?
You
Yeah, I can just log in. It's not. I was just wondering if there was a way for me to see them. It's okay.
on the screen, do you see any of the, like, the private chat?
Oh yeah.
And then the comments, if you click on the comments button, you'll actually be able to see them.
There, I see them. Okay.
You'll see both streams, YouTube and Twitch.
Okay. Wow.
Yep. So as you see the see questions,
Yeah. Okay.
there's one from Mickey 8788.
No. Raise our hand. Okay, so okay. His daughter's an RN, does not have COVID, nor does his home care worker. His home care worker does not have, first of all, his home care worker knows his daughter, they don't have COVID now. They are negative now. Have they always been negative? We don't know, because many people who have COVID are asymptomatic. And that's not me coming up with that. That is widely, even all over mainstream media. Even Fauci will tell you that many people are asymptomatic when they have this. So we don't know what his exposure vector could have been. Could have been his daughter. We don't know. Could it have been his home care worker? We don't know. Did he ever answer the door when the Amazon guy came? I mean, we don't know.
Did he ever get a package from Amazon?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When we do, yes, and there's that. We do know that COVID is not easily spread through touch, but it's still, I guess, through surface contact. But it's still certainly. I'm not going to say it's not possible. The other thing is we have many positives that are not necessarily positive. Is he in the hospital for sure with COVID symptoms, or is he in the hospital and they swabbed him and, oh gosh, look at that, he's positive for COVID? That is a difference.
Yeah, and then she follows up with saying, yes, always negative per test.
Okay.
So
Okay.
whether that's, but guys, again, there are a lot of the healthcare workers. I know when I was asked to come back by the state to help at the very beginning, because of experience that I had in Wuhan, went to Wuhan, China. So I got to see a lot of this stuff firsthand, but they asked me to come back and I was like, nah, not going to happen. But one thing they did say is that there is the ability for it to escape the testing. Just because it's a negative test, you're not going to have a brain scramble every day, multiple times a day, and to carry that from one place to another and not display symptoms, it's a virus. So, I mean, it's so.
And a lot of it will have to do also with what tests they ran. If you get the rapid test and you test positive on the rapid, then they will they consider you positive. If you have a negative rapid result, they still send a PCR, because I don't want to give out numbers because I don't know them, but apparently there's a high incidence of false negative with the rapid result. However, we also don't know if that's a false negative, because a false negative that they then confirm with a PCR that is positive. But we're now finding that the PCRs are run at such high cycles that we're having false positives on the PCR. So it's basically, what I'm saying is, our testing system is so incredibly unreliable right now. It is very hard to tell.
And I think that's a lot of what we're seeing across the board because I mean, you look at the actual cycling for. I mean, everybody talks about the PCR being the golden standard. Well, it's basically a nasal swab that detects all COVID variants. Well,
Mhm.
when there's over 1,000 COVID variants, it's not going to detect each individual one. It'll show up as a positive for a COVID variant, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's my understanding of it as well. Without being an expert in I'm not lab personnel and I'm not in research, but yes, that is my understanding of it. That they're finding it's run so high that they're detecting other things that are also coronaviruses, but aren't necessarily SARS-CoV-2, which is our problem bug.
Yeah, and that's the actual legal name of the virus is SARS-CoV-2. A lot of people co-opted the COVID-19 because it was in 2019 that it was discovered, so
Hmm.
on and so forth. But going back to some of the comments, Mickey is yeah, he's in the hospital now, can't talk or eat, doesn't want to be vented, and then not sure what test they did. He's been in there 3 days, had a temp and a hospital test, and said yes, COVID. So, and I mean, there are other people that are throwing in the stats and stuff for the cycling and all that.
Hmm.
So, saw a thing yesterday where the doc said if the test is magnified 30 times, it's always false. 30 more times. So, I mean, guys, a lot of it's pure. There's a reason they call it medical practice. It's never an exact science.
No, no. Well, and here's the thing with medicine. With medicine deals with human bodies. No two human bodies are exactly the same. They just aren't. As much as we want to think that medicine is an exact science, it is not. It's not. You have so many variations. You've got so many different. Uh, I mean, you've got a section of the population where a high percentage is always going to react a certain way, but that's not true straight across the board. You're always going to have outliers. You're always going to have people whose bodies react differently to things. So as much as medical science it's a good science. It's not a soft science. It is a good science, a hard science, but it's not because the medium that it works in is soft. It is not hard.
Yeah.
There can never be 100%. Other than mortality, there's just not a 100% determination on anything.
Um. So before we jumped on here, you sent me a document,
Yes.
and
Are you looking at it?
well, I have. So right now, if people were to see what I'm looking at, I have one screen that I have everybody on, and then I
Mhm.
have over here I have a screen with that on it. So
Uh-huh.
I kind of look. I I'm looking at the chats. I'm looking at that, trying to make sure we try to cover everything within the hour time limit that we have, or
Okay.
whatever. I know I don't want to keep you out too late. I know you have a really exciting life going on, so we don't want to keep you from that.
I'm good. I can do this. I can do this as long as we need to. This is fun.
Yeah. Oh, this is the first vitamin question. So I'm gonna pull this one up on screen.
How did it count? Well, yes, there are yes, everybody's immune system is different. Um, we know that vitamin D, a deficiency of vitamin D, does make you more susceptible to disease, to viruses, things like that. And in that document that I sent you, there is actually one of those. I think it's one of the CDC links, it actually makes a distinction in there, or they don't make the distinction. They just passively slip it in that this vaccine is for COVID-19, which is the disease caused by SARS-CoV-2, and then there's a definition of disease in there. Disease, the way they define it is being the collection of symptoms. I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
we defined that
I'm
the
working
vaccine is
to
not
pull that
for the vaccine doesn't prevent the virus from it doesn't keep you from getting the virus. It doesn't. It just not according to, not from what I can tell by reading that. That vaccine is designed to keep you from experiencing the disease, the collection of symptoms. Again, that is what it looks like when you read that. I am not qualified to say that that is what the document or that is what the vaccine does.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the exact, or trying to find the exact one.
Okay. So with the vitamin D, yes, everybody's immune system is different. We know that they're I think it's Northern European women tend to be a little more deficient in vitamin D than women from other areas of the world. In the winter, you're probably going to be more deficient in vitamin D than you will in the summer, simply because there's a sunlight factor going on. Your doctor can pull a lab test on you to check to see if you are deficient in vitamin D. And if you are deficient in vitamin D, it is something that they will possibly put you on a supplement for. I personally am on a supplement for it. I am deficient in it otherwise. But having adequate levels of vitamin D is important. But vitamin D, if you remember, all dogs eat kittens. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, so it is possible to overdose on that. So don't just go out and take vitamin D, like a handful of vitamin D every day for the fun of it. That's not the way to do it. That is professional advice. That's not the way. No, that's not. That's not. There's nothing on here that's professional advice. But don't do that.
Yeah, we have to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
So, but decreasing the symptoms, which would okay.
Yes. Hopefully reduce hospitalizations and mortality. That is correct. From what I can tell, that is correct, and that seems to be in line with the documents that they're putting out. Now, having said that, what the flip side of that means is it's there to decrease the symptoms. And have you ever heard of Typhoid Mary?
Years ago.
Yeah. So she was basically an Irish woman way back, I don't know, early 1800s, something like that. Don't fact check me on the date because I'm sure it's wrong. But she had a typhoid infection. She was asymptomatic. She was a cook. She ended up going from home to home to home as a cook. And she was apparently a good cook. So all these very wealthy families wanted to steal her away to be their cook. And they would, and then their whole family would die of typhoid. And she'd go to another family and cook for them, and then they'd all die of typhoid. And they ended up tracing it back to her. She did not know, and she did not believe that she had typhoid because she was asymptomatic. She had no symptoms. She was not sick. She didn't believe she had it. She ended up changing her name. Like, she went to prison, got out of prison, changed her name, and did it again. But Typhoid Mary was someone who had a disease, was asymptomatic, and because of that was able to spread that disease to many, many, many people. If you take people and you make it so that they can have a virus and not have any symptoms of that virus, they are then able to go around and transmit that virus to many, many, many people. There's an odd parallel going on there in my mind. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of people. I mean, you have your maskers, you have your anti-maskers, you have people who are just like, you know what? If I'm in a pinch and I have to, I'll wear it for the 30 seconds I'm in the pinch, but they would
Mhm.
rather not. Um,
I always try to get away with it. I mean, always try to push it. If they're, if you can possibly get through that door without wearing it,
do so.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even in a free state like South Dakota, we have our Karens out here that will jump all over you and, oh, you're not wearing a mask. I was at Walmart last night, or I think it was last night. It might have been another night, so fact check me later. But I was like, I walked into Walmart, no mask on, no nothing. And the lady at the door started flipping out. She's like, "You're not wearing your mask. Masks are required." And I said, "Ma'am, you do have permission to take your mask off." And she just started screaming louder. And I was just like, I don't even know what to do. So I just kept on walking. She followed. She was probably about 3.5 feet from me the whole time,
Mhm.
followed me around, screaming at me through a mask. And then at one point, she pulls the mask down and she's like yelling in my ear. I'm like, "Come on, woman, just back off. If you're that scared of getting a bug,
Mhm.
catch it."
Yeah. Well, yes. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing: for people like that, I would personally, not professionally, personally recommend they go get themselves an N95 respirator. Not because an N95 respirator will work, because it won't unless it's properly fitted to your face. So, pro tip: you don't need an N95 respirator unless you're working in a hospital and it's been properly fitted to your face. Then you're just wasting your time, and it is a little bit difficult to breathe in those, so don't bother. But she needs to go get herself an N95 respirator so she can think that she's safe and not worry about you.
Well, and the funny part is this is the extent of her face mask.
Oh, bless her little soul.
Yeah, I kind of figured I'd get a response like that.
Yeah. Bless her cotton socks. That's great. That's great. Okay.
But
So,
no, we have our share of people out here that, I mean, us living so close to the Minnesota border. I mean, we have people that come from Minnesota. My wife just gets mad.
mhm.
She's like, "Just stay over in your state. You guys love your governor so much. Just stay over there."
Right. Okay, I'm seeing something in here about the mask lower the oxygen levels. Okay, here is something that I do want to address a little bit. Masks, your basic surgical mask, which is kind of at best for the everyday functioning. On the rare occasion that you really, that I would think that you would need a mask, your basic 3-ply surgical mask would be just fine, and they don't really do a good job of lowering your oxygen levels. We wear them constantly. We get enough oxygen. They trap a little bit of carbon dioxide, which also really isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as you're not doing that for a prolonged period of time, and as long as you're only wearing one. God, don't wear two, or three. But
I thought
there's
I thought about actually going out to my van and actually coming on when we were going live and just have like 6 of them.
Right.
But that was just ridiculous.
Yes. There are a couple instances where actually, masks would be a good thing. If you are sick, like sick and coughing, and you're in a position where you have to leave your house for something. And when you leave your house, you're going to have to go into an enclosed space with other people. Then I would say it's probably a good idea to wear a mask. And it doesn't matter what you're coughing. If you're sick and coughing, the mask will help to trap those large droplets that you're going to be exhaling or expelling when you're coughing. But a surgical mask isn't going to filter out just, I mean, honestly, the tiny little things, the surgical mask is not built to filter that out. Gosh, don't wear them for a long period of time. As the surgical mask gets wet, part of the way it works is that it has an electrostatic charge in the fibers. When you get that wet, you lose that charge, so it loses its efficacy. When you breathe out water. So after
about a half hour or so, right?
What's that?
About a half hour to an hour at the longest, from what I've heard in the past. I mean,
I've heard anywhere up to 4 hours, but either way, it's at 4 hours, even at a half hour. That's kind of a soggy mask.
Yeah,
if it's sealed the way they're telling you to do it, yeah, it's soggy.
Yeah, and then you actually people. There was one lady I actually had a debate with. She's like, then why is it that they tell us why do surgeons wear it in the OR? And I looked at the lady and I said, ma'am, sometimes you can't fix stupid. But here's the answer. I said, you know what those things are really, really good for? She's like, what's that? Blocking blood-borne pathogens.
They do.
That's not all they're used for. I said, well, the fibers are too small to block a virus. They'll block bacterial infections, which is what they're designed to do. But they will not block a virus, because a virus versus a vaccine or virus versus a bacterial infection are two different. I mean, you're talking nanometers versus micrometers. So
yep.
You're talking a whole different ball of wax. But
yeah, it's exponentially. It's a whole decimal point.
Yeah. People. So she after that she kind of backed off me a little bit, but yeah, there's a point, and some people, like for me, I choose not to go into establishments. If I can help it, I choose not to go into establishments that require face masks. Just not my thing. But sometimes, like doing what I do now as a plumber, when my supply house is closed, guess what? I get to go into Menards, and they require a mask, and they have a mask enforcer right there as you walk in the door. So
at least they're employing someone. That's the silver lining. Somebody's got a job.
Yeah, I mean it's.
But the other thing is with a surgeon, I mean, if you think about it, a surgeon is looking down. He is looking down while he is performing surgery, doing surgery. When you look down, and probably for a prolonged period of time, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but every now and then when I'm looking down, I'm concentrating on something for a prolonged period of time. I'm breathing through a mask, or I'm trying to do something. Sometimes, you know what, people will drool a little bit. You're not worried about yourself. You're worried about what's going on inside of the patient. If your nose runs, anything like that, you don't have to worry about any of your fluids accidentally landing in an open body cavity. They're great. They have a really good, solid purpose in that way in the OR. And, numbers show us that it improves outcomes. So we're going to go with that and be okay with that. But, we're not performing surgery at Walmart. You don't need them.
Yeah. And guys,
you do need to change masks for prolonged surgeries. Sorry.
There are a lot of people that do have get these face rashes from and we're not saying that it doesn't happen. Of course, there are healthcare professionals too that are required to wear them, no matter whether
Mhm.
they're working on the floor or even in the office.
Mhm.
But you guys are required to pretty much everywhere.
Yes. Yes, we are. And it got to the point where at this point, every night before I go to bed, I rub Neosporin on my face because otherwise I break out. I never broke out before, but with all the mask usage, it's a combination of the irritation of the fibers on your skin and just breathing out and everything that you breathe out bacteria, you breathe out whatever you got in your lungs. There's normal bacteria in your lungs. It's normal pulmonary flora. It's supposed to be there. But when you breathe it out, it's supposed to go away. If it doesn't go away, if it gets trapped into a film and then gets pressed back onto your face, well, then maybe you've got a little infection on your face because it's where it's not supposed to be.
Yeah, and I know there. I'm going through and just
Yeah, I need to look at
um,
it.
kids wearing masks. I don't really agree with kids wearing masks. I do understand a little bit, but I mean, I threatened to pull my kids out of public school over a forced mask thing.
Mhm. I
They,
thought, yeah, I thought that they had determined that children do not spread
yeah, they
COVID.
did, but yeah, Dr. Fauci was still saying that yeah, the kids are required to have them in school and so on and so forth, and the teachers unions got involved, and
Mm, that is okay. See that right there? The teachers, Fauci said straight up then that kids don't spread COVID, but then said kids still need to wear masks. And the teachers unions got involved and they had to wear masks. That means we're not following science. We're following politics. And God bless it, Anthony Fauci. Until you can muster up the personal integrity to actually practice based on science, you no longer have the privilege of injecting things into my body or the bodies of the people I care about.
yeah, yeah. I mean, when I heard the recommend or when I heard Fauci, I don't remember where it was. Whether it was somewhere else. He was out there saying, "Yeah, in some certain circumstances, you should be wearing 2 or 3 masks." And I'm just like,
Can't
"What?"
imagine what those circumstances are.
I mean, coming from a
3
medical,
layers of not gonna protect you still
yeah.
isn't gonna protect you.
So yeah, I'm just like, wow.
Mhm.
I am one of those people that I look at how many people are out there just preaching it, but they're not really following what is written down. I mean, and Dr. Anthony Fauci was also the guy who authored that study. It was like a 15-year study. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't seen it, I've heard of it.
Yeah, and if you go look out on PubMed, it's there. I was I thought about grabbing that before I started, but I didn't get to it. But
Mhm.
yeah, that was one thing he was talking about was, hey, you have people that are against masks, and he says masks are not effective blockers of viruses.
Well, he said that when this all started. When
Yeah,
this all started, he said, "You don't need masks, you don't need masks. They're not
well,
effective, you don't need."
this 15-year study, was what actually he was basing it off of. And then
Mhm,
the CDC does, or NIH or CDC, whoever it is, they did a
mhm.
9-month study, and all of a sudden, that is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Not only do you need to wear a mask out in public, you're supposed to wear a mask inside and when you're sleeping with your
Yep.
spouse.
No, absolutely not.
I
Yeah,
was just
they're
like,
just,
where
sorry.
where
I'm
is
sorry.
this
If it
coming from?
takes us both, it's no, not gonna.
Yeah, and I mean it's just kind of I. Oh yeah, did you see the new update on the CDC requirements for schools?
No.
That was actually updated at 3:45 this afternoon Central Time, so about 4:45 your time. Or are you
So
Eastern or Central?
I'm central. So is this? But to clarify, is this they can be 3 feet away instead of 6 feet away, or three
Yeah,
feet away instead of nothing?
no, 3 feet instead of 6 feet
Oh,
because
okay.
and the plastic shields that are
Mm.
between them and the other students when they're sitting at their little pods,
Mm-hmm.
they can get shorter now.
I know, because COVID
I'm
can't jump.
just like, okay, so now we're getting one more step towards
Mm-hmm.
saying enough is enough with this BS.
Good. Good.
But so
Mm.
yeah. Oh, look who decided to join us, Jason.
Hey.
So every day you walk your dog the same part across the street and watch people every day.
Don't wear a mask outside. People, please don't wear. I don't care what the state of California is telling you. Please do not wear a mask outside alone. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. If they can find some science, any science, I don't care if it comes from some wackadoodle, find any science to back that up, and I'll listen. I will listen. But I can't imagine what in the name of Pete would lead someone to believe that they're going to catch COVID out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. Have you ever been to South Dakota, Sam?
No. I've been to California. That's fun. It's like a
I mean,
wildlife. They're
I've
crazy.
been to California too, so I don't blame you.
Mm.
But yeah, there's South Dakota. It's pretty much wide open.
Mm. Yeah. And I mean, here's the thing: if it can only travel 6 feet or 3 feet now, if it's like lower to the ground, apparently, then if you're out in nature, you're good. I mean, you're good.
Yeah, it's so. What about kids being made to wear a mask while playing sports? I mean, I think that is kind of a.
I
I'll
think
let you
it's
respond to that.
you said Jason. You're gonna let Jason respond to that.
No, I'm going to let you
Me?
respond to this. Yeah.
Okay. I think it. Honestly, I think we're just competing to see how stupid we could get at this point. It is an exercise in absolute idiocy. I don't understand why you would wear a mask while playing sports. There are so many other, if we're talking contact sports, there are so many better ways to spread anything than breathing. I get that they're breathing and they're breathing hard, but you're talking about kids. Number one, kids that we already know don't really spread the virus. Kids who are healthy and active, because these are athletes. They are out there running around. They're just not. They've got good, healthy immune systems, and they're playing sports. In the sports setting where you really do need all your oxygen, and I realize I just said masks aren't really good at impairing your oxygen, but in that case, I would imagine that putting anything that decrease your ability to get a good lung full of air, it's probably not the best way to go. And since there's not, they can't come up with a clinical benefit for it. It doesn't keep kids from getting COVID. it doesn't affect the number of kids that do get COVID. It's just virtue signaling. I mean, it's a competition of idiocy.
Narini just posted, you should see all the people jogging down here in this down the street here in San Diego with their mask on. When they go by you, they move over another 5 feet.
Well, that's good because they used to just jog over top of you.
Yeah.
So I'm actually okay with that.
Yeah, I mean they can wear their face diapers.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes, and as much as I'm not like, I am going to be a little bit of a jerk about California. I love you people in California. No, I love you people on here who are in California. The rest of them, good grief.
I have some family members out in California, and I'm sure that one of them pops in here every now and again in the room. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny because most of them are flaming liberals.
Yeah.
And they live right there in the Hollywood Hills, Burbank area. So I get a chuckle out of them.
Yeah.
And they asked, well, they were going to come up and visit just before the pandemic hit, and they were asking me if they could come up. I said, yeah. I said, just don't stay. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, we don't need any more Californications here.
Yeah.
And they were not very happy at me.
I hope these weren't your in-laws. That's just not the way.
No, it would be like my biological mother, my biological sister, my biological brother. I mean, actual family members.
Okay. So people who are stuck with you no matter what you say. That's great. Yeah. Say what you want to them.
Well, they don't like to talk to me much anymore, anyways. So.
Yeah.
Most of California are fed up with our state. It's a beautiful place to live. Yes, I will agree with you. If the taxes, okay, guys, here's my honest opinion. If the taxes were lower, if there were not as many needles in the streets, and people were a little friendlier out there, it'd be a absolutely beautiful place to live.
It would.
So, no, we never said that all of you guys are crazy. Just a select
couple. I did. I'm sorry about that.
But she did throw out there that not everybody. She said she likes the people on her chat, on her show. Mm-hmm. So, yes, we do have a fantastic governor out here in South Dakota. And I will brag on her a little bit because it's my wife's second cousin. So, yes, we will brag on her a little bit. But yeah, no, there's a whole bunch of us that came from California, and we just tell our friends and relatives that are not of the same political persuasion, just stay there. Don't move.
I have a lot of friends out in California. I will say I actually spent about 6 months out in California on a travel contract for nursing, and I was in Santa Barbara, and it was back in 2008, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful country, countryside. I didn't mean to suggest that it's a foreign country, but the political climate there is different. It is different. It is very blue, very blue. I have a number of red friends who are there, and they, we still keep in touch. But I know it's difficult to be red in California.
Well, you have to look over your shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
If you live near those liberal centers like Santa Barbara, LA, I mean San Francisco, Fresno, California, Burbank, Hollywood Hills, all those areas. If you're a conservative, you better watch your back and you better not let people know, because your life gets destroyed, and it's a very real possibility.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I know a lot of people seem to be really enjoying the discussion. So
That's good. I'm glad we're not boring people. That'd be
yeah, a lot of people. Yeah, I know there's a lot of counties in California that are red, and there's a lot of conservatives out there. But you get towards those liberal centers, and yeah, it's
hard blue, hard blue. Tennessee, we've got our blue spots too. Like the Nashville and Knoxville area, the big cities are hard blue. Memphis is blue. Knoxville and Nashville are deep blue. It's mostly the rural areas that are going to be, red, and luckily Tennessee is mostly rural, but you were in Ventura County for 11 months. Really? Yeah, you were in Ventura County for 11 months and it was very red. That's fantastic.
Everybody talks about like Nashville and Knoxville and different places being really rural, or they're the bigger cities. So the entire population of South Dakota could fit in the same population center as Nashville.
I believe that.
Because I think the last census was like 849,000 people live in the entire state of South Dakota. So yeah, when people ask us why we stayed open the whole pandemic, well, guys, when
there's
it's
6 feet between everybody,
there's 6 to 12 acres,
right?
So yeah, a lot of Californians are trying to move to South Dakota. They last about a month, and then they're out of here. And if they come in later during the springtime, like April, May, they'll last until just around November, and then they're gone.
They're like, no, bail.
Well, I think when the temperature starts to drop below 20, yeah, everybody's out of there.
I can't fault them for that. I'll tell you what, we got part of that Texas junk a couple weeks back, and I was not feeling it, not at all.
Oh, the next time we get a nice good cold snap, I'll just tell you, come on up, Sam.
Oh no, I'm good.
I will pay for the ticket. Just so you can experience a good old South Dakota freeze.
Right. Well, no, to be fair, I actually spent a couple of years in Detroit. I mean, I was born in that area, and I lived there until I was 10, 11-ish. But then in my 20s, I moved back there for a couple of years. I was actually there during 9/11. I was working at the airport. And that was crazy. And so I have driven through a Detroit winter or two. I'm good. I've had the experience. That like bucket list item has been checked off. Hard.
Nobody is moving to South Dakota.
No.
Yeah, I kind of figured as much. And as much as I would love to move out of here, everything else is way too damn expensive.
It is. Land tax is expensive. Income taxes are expensive. Luckily, Tennessee has reasonable.
South Dakota has 0 income tax.
Oh well, Tennessee has 0 income tax. We've got reasonable
property tax. South Dakota is the lowest in the nation.
That's good. That's really good.
And we're actually, the wages are coming up to the point where now it is actually starting to compete with major.
With that $15 an hour mark.
They're over. A lot of the starting wages now are over the $15 mark.
Really?
Yeah.
Tennessee has not done that yet.
Yeah. So no state tax and booming economy. Yep.
Texas, yeah. No. Yeah.
But Come to New York, they tax everything twice.
That's so that just makes me sad. That sadness.
We talked about moving to South Dakota to get out of New Mexico. Yeah, guys, if anybody is really curious about aliens and really want to go down those, so there we have a few people that
Hmm.
watch this stream that are from
Like
Roswell,
Roswell.
Mexico. So yeah, I always anytime I talk to her, I
Hmm.
always ask her, so have you seen any aliens recently?
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean it's kind of a running joke, but yeah, it's
Hmm.
I we're going in there.
I love. I've been slow waking up since like 1992, 90. No, not 92, probably 96. When I first discovered the X-Files, that's when I discovered that my government is not my friend. And I'd say that with all the waking up part, with all humor. I haven't been really waking up, apparently not very fast. But I love like everything to do with conspiracies and aliens, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, and I think everybody there has to be some level having some level of fun
Mhm.
with it. So, but yeah, I mean, a lot of we covered a lot of stuff.
Mhm. Cat 6, Cuomo never looked good. Just gonna put that one out there.
But when you were talking about the 70s, I was like, wow. You talked about working in Detroit on 9/11.
Hmm.
I wasn't even out of 5th grade yet.
Oh, I was working at FedEx. I was working at the
At the terminal at the airport, the
yep.
cargo terminal.
Yep.
So yeah, I think I thought it was kind of funny when you're like, yeah, 9/11. I was working at the in Detroit.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
worked in Detroit in 2013, but yeah, I mean, we covered a lot of things. A
Hmm.
lot. I mean, general trying to prophylactic health.
Hmm.
Anything that you would, in your opinion, would you recommend? Like any vitamins? I know we talked about D3. Yeah.
Hmm. I would recommend speaking with your doctor about possibly starting a regimen of um, vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, and a multivitamin. That's what my recommendation would be. Speaking to your doctor and asking him if you should start a vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, and a multivitamin.
She has done a really really wonderful job,
Thanks.
and I mean I know a lot of people. I know you're probably a little bit nervous about this
Yeah, yeah, I was.
because I mean aside from the 15-minute phone call that we had, what was it, Tuesday night?
Hmm.
We had never like we
Nope.
had never talked longer than that 15 minutes, and I mean even before the show you're sending me messages, what are we going to cover, and I'm just like we'll just go into it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I think a lot of it actually has to do with for me it's more drawing on some of my own experiences and using that and trying to v- draw the questions out more than anything, and then
Mm-hmm.
get the audience interacting, because then of course they're going to feed that. But somebody somebody just asked, um, what about a probiotic?
Um, uh, pr- Probiotics, they're great. Here's the thing. I have a personal bias against probiotics, and I'll tell you why. A couple years ago, had decided that it was a good idea to go ahead and take a probiotic, and um, the person who I took medical advice from about taking the probiotic was not remotely involved in medicine at all, but I decided it'd be a good idea to follow their advice. They said, when you take the probiotic, open the capsule and swish with it and then swallow it down. I was like, oh, okay, that's a good idea. Knowing full well that I am a nurse, have a nursing degree and a nursing license and enough education to know better than that. And I did it. And the next day, I had a mouth full of bacterial pustules, little colonized, like bacterial colonies, colonizing in my gums, in my cheeks, on my tongue, anywhere that you don't realize you have little tiny microabrasions in your mouth because you chew food every day. And some of it's a little bit sharp and it cuts your mouth and you don't think anything about it. Every single micro cut in my mouth had a little bacterial colony in it. And for that reason, I absolutely and unfairly detest probiotics to this day. Having said that, talk to your doctor about it. If you really want a probiotic, I'm not going to say don't do it. I'm going to say I had such a bad reaction to the probiotic because I did it wrong that I don't trust them anymore. I was traumatized. Probiotic trauma.
And I know there are some people I've heard of actually having those problems. Of course, everybody has their own reactions too, and we definitely want people to go and talk to your doctors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had to take a course of antibiotics just to get rid of them.
Yeah, probably some azithromycin.
I don't even remember. I just remember that I had to live on yogurt and pills, antibiotics, for like a week before my mouth was even like healed up enough that I could start chewing and swallowing other things because it hurt so bad. Well, and I'm sure. And I so knew better than that. I don't know why I did it. But I did.
I mean, there are some pretty funny stories that I think there's other nurses that are on that could tell you some pretty funny stories too. I mean, one of the very first times I was on OB ward or doing trauma OB, there I had a doctor screaming at me like, "Hey, go and get." I can't remember exactly what it was, but they're yelling at me, and I froze up, and I turn and look at the other nurse who sits there and stares at me and like, are you for real? Come on now, get moving. Here's somebody bleeding big time, and you're sitting there just staring at them. Like, what am I supposed to do? And still to this day, I was like completely embarrassed after the fact because you think you know everything coming straight out of school, mm-hmm. and you're gung-ho and ready to go, and then just whoops.
Yep. I will tell you that will happen to you on a rare occasion throughout your career. Every now and then it's going to happen to you. Every now and then you will be the person standing there when somebody says, "Hey, what you waiting for?" and you've got the defib paddles. I mean, it's just every now and then that's going to happen.
I think the funniest thing that I ever saw is a doctor going to do a defib, and he had a tear in his scrubs, and he was leaning up against. He hit them, and he had a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. he was down and out, and I was like, "Oh crap!"
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't stop from laughing. I was just like, really?
Mhm.
There's a reason. There's a reason they
We
say
say
clear.
all clear, right? Yep.
But
All clear. Oxygen's clear. All right, let's go.
yeah, no, it's guys. There's nurses, doctors, pretty much everybody can go and do. They could tell many horror stories, or many humorous stories, depending on which one you want to hear, of different things that they've seen or heard of in the hospital.
Mhm.
So, but guys, as much as we have absolutely enjoyed the conversation tonight and all the people that have showed up, all good things must come to an end. And guys, tomorrow, just a little programming note. I will not be on tomorrow. I'm gonna deal with some family stuff, so we will not be live at all tomorrow. So 0 live, guys. 0.
Okay.
You guys know how I am. You guys have a pen and a microphone. Use them. The silent majority can no longer stay silent. God bless you guys. God bless America. And good night.
Night, everybody.
Okay.